Welcome to Bardosh Expounded Round 3, Policy Recommendations Through the Eyes of Wozniak. The point of policy research, Bardosh tells us, is not educational edification, though this will happen, but to enlighten yourself about an issue so that you understand it well enough to recommend a responsible course of action, ultimately leading to social change. This can happen because through your work you understand an issue very well, perhaps better than anyone else in the state, and so you can represent that issue to others. This can happen because you will see a path that you feel is the best one to take. Thus, you will make recommendations. As you move into the recommendation phase of your work, here are some things to think about. First, it's important to work with others and build coalitions. This is critical. No policy was ever implemented based on the efforts and thinking of one person, or even a small group of people. This is a team sport, and your team must necessarily expand. This also means that the ideas you came up with in your group are likely to be very different or subject to change once you start going public with them. Bardosh mentions that timing is important as to when you let your ideas go public. I agree, and think that you may want to give this some thought. If you make your ideas public too early, when they're still formative, you can anticipate quite a bit of edits and changes. This might not be all bad. It elicits buy-in from other groups, so it could be good. You can build a coalition around this kind of co-creation. On the other hand, you may lose more than you're willing to surrender by doing this. Aspects of policy recommendations that you hold near and dear may have to go. You should know that holding on to ideas that are not ultimately implementable are not going to serve anyone. And sometimes the strategy is to get the camel's nose under the tent. You'll have to decide how you want to represent your ideas and how you want to present them, when, and to whom, for what purpose. That is so important, I'm going to repeat it. You have to decide how you want to represent and present your ideas, when, and to whom, and for what purpose. 2. As you develop your recommendations, prepare for criticism. What part of your recommendations are opponents likely to criticize? Can you anticipate it and be ready for it? Be ready to defend it? Or do you need to bend your proposal to ameliorate some of the objections? Can you shore up or bolster those areas that are likely targets? This happened for GAL issues, guardian ad litem issues, when parents were adamant that there should be a review board for hearing complaints, and the judges saw some of their ability to run an effective courtroom being eroded, so they wouldn't support that. In fact, they wouldn't support the bill and spoke against it. In later iterations of the bill, this was removed. It's not that we didn't need that review board for problem gals, but it wasn't going to be supported, and so bill advocates had to make a choice. 3. Use experts. Who has national credibility and expertise who can support your efforts? Bardosh points out that these are very useful because they can join your chorus supporting your issue, and because their name is out there, they too feel responsible to defend their research or their findings. 3. Use statistics in your report. They can be helpful. They can tell a reader very quickly what the scope of the problem is or how other states have fared. Make sure that you build a bridge for your reader from your state to another state. So if you're using statistics from, say, Rhode Island, make sure that you tell your reader very clearly why you believe those statistics from Rhode Island will be useful and applied to Montana. It might seem axiomatic to you, but make sure you tell the reader exactly what they should see in your statistics. 5. Representing your ideas are very, very important. Ideally, policy would be a year-long class in which you could work with media and graphic artists to get your recommendations out there and marketed. Sadly, this is not a perfect world, and we don't have that luxury. So you'll want to think about how you can take the imperfections that you were given and still do what you need to do. How will you present and represent your ideas? In what form? What plans for representation will you hand off to the next class or group of concerned citizens who are going to work on this issue next? If you've done the legwork on the issue, gathering data, creating recommendations, then what is the next step? How will you get word out to people? How should this be affected? And make a recommendation for dissemination. Next, what beliefs do your recommendations support or challenge? This is why the historical analysis in your framework is important. It allows you to see a history or a context or a way of doing things in our town or state or nation. It provides the context within which your recommendations will fit. If you're proposing anti-death penalty legislation, for example, it'll be important to know how beliefs about punishment, payback, and justice may figure into your recommendations. They might challenge people's beliefs, or they may support others. It's a lot to think about, all of those things I just mentioned, but there are excellent tools and examples of briefs that can help you, and many of them are on your Moodle. Finally, I want to say a word about one tool, and that is the logic model that I've included on our Moodle for your use. Logic models are useful tools for evaluating the effectiveness of an intervention or for program development or evaluation. I think they can be helpful for evaluating the effectiveness of your recommendations too, especially if your recommendations are for major change in any type of program. Use it as a tool, which means you'll want to fork it. Parts will be helpful, parts won't. You can improve a logic model by adding to it the components that you need. A logic model in general can help you clarify what recommendations hope to achieve. You can also use it to effectively set up a monitoring of your activities, and you can use it as a way to measure performance. You can also use it as a way to document exactly what the program intends to do and what it will do and how you'll know. All right, well, that's all for now. Happy writing, happy thinking, and above all else, happy forking.